The hallway was crowded, as usual. Elliot and I were jostled to literature. I was surprised to catch several snatches of conversation. Sorry, my game decided to close right there. I'm like, conversation about the missing students. I must have been really distracted the last few days to totally miss this story. Interesting how everyone was just talking about the high schoolers, though. Vilas mentioned 5 people. Elliot and I had changed the topic pretty quickly, but if 3 missing people were high schoolers, who were the other 2? It wasn't really a pleasant topic to think about, but I wondered if he knew. Yeah, after thinking about this some more, I'm still standing behind my first theory, but I'm also, on the other hand, like, it could be a vampire hunter. Because I don't think it's a throwaway line on Elliot's part to be like, you know, the most cryptids that exist in this area are vampires. So, I mean, if all 5 of these people were vampires, maybe there's a vampire hunter in town. Grant. I think Grant's behind it all. I think we got a Jefferson situation going on with him. But I don't know. I'm sus of Grant for sure. In the end, though, once class started, there wasn't much time to think about that kind of thing. I couldn't exactly ask Allie if she knew about it. Though, now that I thought about it, she had mentioned some big case the agents were focused on. That had to be the one she was referring to. Yep. Man, I hope they're not having the interns do anything dangerous. It wasn't something I could ask in class, though. When the lunch bell finally rang, I was already tired. The trig chemistry combo was really draining. I paused in my locker and contemplated what to do for lunch. How about a date? I'd been missing out on my morning research, and I really couldn't afford to. Lunch might give me some much-needed quiet to look deeper into the sleepwalking issue. I could wait to eat after I got home from school. You didn't have breakfast this morning, though. Club room it is. I dropped my textbooks off and headed in that direction, trying to avoid teachers just in case they wanted to enforce my need for sustenance on me. You need sustenance, girl! My footsteps echoed slightly in the quiet. I guess I should focus on the sleepwalking, but there was also that issue with the eyes. I hadn't had much time to think of it, but without the distraction of classes and lessons, my mind gradually made its way back to what had happened that morning in the bathroom. That incident with the mirror. I was frowning to myself as I started up the stairs. I wonder if that's something I should add to my research list. It was the 2nd time now. But what was it? A hallucination? Illusion? I paused. Illusion. Wait, why didn't I think of this earlier? Like a glamour. Fairies had an illusory magic that seemed to be almost universal no matter the subcategory of fae. It was called glamour. Girl, proud of you. Look at you. Putting 2 and 2 together. Let's see. Vampires, changelings, brownies. Glamour is one of the most well-known types of fairy magic. It was originally used in the sense of an illusion spell meant to make one beautiful, but fairies actually use glamour for all sorts of reasons, including to make themselves ugly and intimidating, or to disguise leaves as coins and poisonous mushrooms as delicious food. I had read about that recently. Could that have been it? I didn't really know how to use magic, but maybe it was possible to use it unintentionally or subconsciously. But then, if that's what had happened, what did it mean? Why would I randomly use glamour on myself like that? I was still mulling that over when I reached the door to the club room. In fact, I was so caught up in my thoughts about that incident that I didn't realize I'd been followed. Not until I happened to glance down the hall right as I stepped through the door, and saw a familiar face coming toward me. Spencer? Why was he following me? Elliot was sitting on the couch staring at me questioningly, and my first instinct was to rush across the room, grab him, and dive over the sofa. Just go with it, man. Oh, Nora! We rolled into the space between the sofa and coffee table as I clapped my hand over his mouth. Isn't it going to be more suspicious that he saw you come into this room and you just disappeared? Shh! I listened carefully for the sounds of my brother following me into the club room. I glanced at Elliot and slightly loosened my grip. Spencer followed me upstairs. I didn't see him until I was walking into the club. He'll probably try to follow me in here.
But, I mean, you know there's a spell on the room, right?
I chewed my lip anxiously. I knew Allie had said that, but... how am I supposed to trust something I can't even see? What happens if he looks in the club room with us in it? Elliot wriggled out of my grasp and sat up.
He won't see anything but an empty class.
Which is a problem considering he just saw me walk in.
Then the spell will alter his memory and perception so he doesn't notice anything amiss. It'll be fine.
Are you sure? I mean, he's already suspicious of me. If he saw anything weird about the club room.
It's okay. I promise. Come on.
He pulled me up so we could both peek over the back of the sofa. That sound. Spencer was standing in the door, peering inside. Elliot ducked back down, pulling me down with him. What the heck, man? Why is he just standing in the doorway? I was whispering frantically, eyes wide. He wasn't exactly in the room with us, but he was just outside in the hall peering in. Elliot crouched next to me, equally wide-eyed. He definitely hadn't been expecting to see Spencer standing there either.
I don't know. Normally, we shouldn't even be able to see him in the door because of the whole difference in space-time or whatever where the club exists.
Hold that thought, Elliot. I gotta write about this quick. No, wait. There we go. Space-time. Space-time. Where art thou? Space-time. No. No? There we go. The club room doesn't have an illusion spell on it or anything like that. The club actually exists in a different space than the classroom you can see from the hallway, one that usually can't be perceived or entered by normal people. The protective spell on the room keeps them from noticing anything unusual when club members enter and exit the area. It can even go as far as altering or erasing memories to protect the club room. For cryptics and budding cryptics, though, it's a whole different story. Can he see us?
He shouldn't be able to?
So what's he doing there?
How should I know?
What do we do? You're the expert on this stuff. I'm a newbie, remember?
Let's just wait and listen.
We sat there for what seemed like forever, breathing quietly. In the silence, I became almost hyper-aware of every sound. My own heart felt like it was beating loud enough for Elliot to hear. He probably can. Then again, he's a vampire. For all I know, he can hear heartbeats. Time slowed to a crawl as the two of us huddled together, pressed against the front of the sofa. I looked up at him. Romantic music plays. Hiding from your brother, oh boy. I looked up at him, realizing for the first time how close we were. When he looked down at me, our faces were mere inches apart. His lips parted slightly, and I could just see his longer than usual fangs poking out. My breath caught in my throat as my mind went to so many strange places. Nora, down, girl. Did it hurt when a vampire bit you? Did it hurt Elliot when he was bitten? Did he have scars? What was it like? Was it scary? I lifted my eyes slowly and realized he was looking down at me too, a hint of pink spreading across his cheeks. My face heated up as well. I swallowed nervously. The atmosphere was suddenly heavy, and I almost forgot completely about Spencer. The moment dragged out with neither of us moving. I struggled to find my voice again.
Think he's gone? I don't know.
Yeah, you check. I'll continue my thoughts.
You check.
I poked his shoulder, nudging him toward the back of the sofa.
Okay, fine.
He shifted slightly and pulled himself up to peer over the edge of the sofa. I took the opportunity to just collect myself. It was always a little awkward to find yourself that close to someone else. Or tense, maybe. I don't know, it was embarrassing! I pressed my hands to my stupid face, hoping it wasn't as red as it felt. It is. I avoided closing my eyes because I knew all I'd see was his face. His strange eyes. Strange, pretty eyes. Ah! Get that thought out of your head, idiot! Elliot breathed a long, loud sigh of relief. Blah, 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 blah. Sorry, I got eyes in my head too now.
Oh.
I immediately pulled myself up as well. He's gone.
Yeah. Why is he following you around anyway?
I told you before, right? He's really suspicious of me. I think even more so because I joined this club. It's not exactly known for being normal.
I guess that's true. Have you told Velos about it?
Well, no. I mean, Allie had considered the possibility Spencer may also be a cryptic or something, but...
It's weird that we could see him standing there like that. Normally the spell doesn't really work that way. At least, not for normal humans.
Yeah. Makes me wonder what he saw.
That's the weird thing. I don't think he saw anything strange. I mean, he'd have reacted if he saw the room change or something. And if he saw you walk in, then didn't see you in the room when he checked, you'd think he would have poked around rather than just standing there.
That's true. And if he had seen us, then he'd have said something.
Maybe he thinks he did. Hard to say what the protection spell showed him. But I should probably talk to Velos about it.
Do you have to mention it to him?
Well, I kind of feel like I should.
I just don't want to cause any issues for Spencer if I can help it.
I don't think Velos would do anything to him. He'd probably just check that the spell is still fine. Or find a way to personally meet your brother and see if he can detect anything weird. Like if maybe your brother is a sensitive. That's the only time I can think of when the spell in the club might not work right.
Allie was going to look into that. We just haven't had time to work out a way to approach him. He's been through a lot. Plus, when he gets upset, he takes it out on me.
Well, Velos is busy this week anyway with everything going on. Maybe we can wait until next week to tell him. But I don't think we can put it off if Spencer keeps, following you and stuff.
I get it. I gave him a slight smile and suddenly remembered the sight of his face so close to mine. The feel of his warm breath. My face instantly heated up again, and I stood trying to distract myself. I should get my things together. I'd sort of just thrown them as I jumped over the sofa.
I'll help.
He laughed slightly.
That was kind of an impressive swan dive over the back of the sofa.
I have really strong survival instincts.
That's not a bad thing.
While I retrieved my backpack, he bent to pick something up off the ground. Sketchbook?
Here you go. I think this went flying when you dove over the sofa.
Oh, thanks. It was the journal for all my paranormal research. Elliot closed it and handed it over.
What language is that anyway?
Oh, that. It's kind of embarrassing, but It's just a stupid thing from when Spencer and I were kids. We kind of had this made-up language. I mean, I kind of made it up and taught it to him. Then I made an alphabet for it when we were older, and we'd write notes in it, sort of like a code. Anyway, he forgot it after a while, so now I'm the only person who knows it. I thought I'd keep all my research notes in it.
Oh, smart idea. That way your family can't read it, right?
Pretty much.
That's kinda cool. I guess it's sort of like those twin languages or something.
Yeah, something like that.
You should teach me sometime. I mean, you know, if you want. Well, I mean, then you wouldn't be the only person that knows it.
I don't mind teaching you. It's not that hard to learn. I flopped down on the sofa. Anyway, what are you doing up here? I figured no one would be here.
Velos had something he needed to tell me. He asked me to come up to the library.
He glanced up at the clock.
Right about now, actually.
Ah, you're leaving?
Yeah, sorry.
It's okay. I was just going to spend the whole time reading anyway.
I won't be long, but I'll try to not distract you today.
I am determined to not be distracted anyway. He shot me a grin and disappeared into the library. I sat there for a moment thinking about Spencer. Had he just been coming up to the club on his own to snoop around, or had he followed me? If it was the latter, how did he even know I was skipping lunch today? I was going to have to start being more careful. For now, all I could do was focus on my research and see if I could find a way to stop the sleepwalking. Spencer aside, that was my biggest priority at the moment. Spencer, well, I'd have to try to deal with him later. I opened my book, settled in the sofa, and was soon absorbed by my research. Okay, that was not a lunch date, first of all. There was no lunch date to be had. Just some looking into each other's eyes longingly. But I'll take it. Alright, Chapter 4, Grant Mitchell. Blech. Still Friday. My afternoon courses were a bit lighter than the morning courses. Art, government, and a study period that I could choose to spend in the library or cafeteria, under the watch of whatever teacher had free time. I had learned in the first week that the only people who went to the library were couples who were really appreciative the librarian was old and unobservant. Gross. After one very awkward study period my first day, I had permanently relocated to the cafeteria for all my study needs. In any case, the cafeteria group was rarely watched closely. The teacher often showed up late, or never showed up at all. Since we were all juniors and seniors, I suppose they figured we were mature enough to behave. That was probably their mistake. But it wasn't too bad most days. I was sitting in my usual spot at a corner table with my math book open. It wasn't easy to focus, though. Our lack of supervision ensured there was a lot more conversation than usual. I could sneak my earbuds out and listen to music, but the teacher would inevitably come back and catch me, and I really didn't want my phone confiscated. I sighed quietly, trying to focus, but it was impossible. With the disappearances at the public school, there was plenty to gossip about. I didn't even have to try to listen in to hear that most everyone was talking about the girl that had gone missing, and the two boys they still hadn't found. The table next to me was especially loud. I was trying really hard to ignore them since one of the people there was Kara, who I'd been managing to avoid lately. She'd largely avoided me after the first few days when she stirred up rumors about me and Spencer. But every so often I saw her staring at me and laughing with some of her friends, so I suspected she wasn't quite finished being a pain in the butt. I did my best to ignore her, though. There was also James, who was a decent guy, but the two of them were with Kara's friend Emery and a boy named Luke, neither of whom I really liked. I wouldn't have paid attention to them, but it was difficult considering how loud they were being. Oh yeah, Luke. Man, it has been a hot minute since we saw Luke, and yeah, like back when we first started, basically. I kind of forgot Luke was here.
Well, now that someone else is missing, I doubt they'll find the other two. They've been gone too long now.
You know, they found a body in the woods last week, right? They think it's that hiker that went missing last month. What? A body in the woods? I hadn't heard anything like that, and I knew Dad would have heard it and mentioned something about it, probably. But Velos had said the missing person count was up to 5, though you wouldn't call it a missing person if there was a body. He did kind of slur the part. I frowned and abandoned all pretenses of studying as I continued to listen in.
Yeah, I heard it was out by Shadow Lake Bog.
Whoa, that's only a few miles from my house.
It took them a few days to ID it because it was in pretty bad condition. Apparently an animal got a hold of it. Ugh. Like I said, I don't think they have much hope of finding the 2 missing guys at this point. They'll probably focus on trying to find the girl now.
I sneaked a look over at their table. James seemed very upset. I wondered if he knew some of the missing kids. Though I guess one didn't have to know the victims to be worried. They were pretty young. Our age, maybe younger. I didn't want to think about them being in danger either.
I can't believe something like this is starting up again. Yeah, it's been a while.
5 years. I looked away, feeling awkward and anxious.
I just hope they're found alive, no matter how slim the chance. One of those guys, I'd met him before. He was a good guy.
Luke leaned in a bit closer. I had to strain to hear what he was saying.
Don't tell anyone this, but you know my dad is a cop, right? They haven't released this information yet, but that body they found in the bog, the hiker. After they did the autopsy, they discovered that it was totally drained of blood.
Gotcha. Drained of blood?
Didn't you say it was in bad shape? It could have just been from animals or something. Nah, all the damage to the body happened after the person died. There's no way that could have caused the blood loss.
Okay. So they drank someone dry, and then... I mean, at least some vampires can shapeshift. Might have done damage after the fact to make it look like an animal attack. So... you're saying something drained the person's blood completely before they died, then tossed their body in hopes animals would destroy the evidence?
James shuddered. Ugh. That's creepy, man.
More than you know. Because, I mean, the first thing that came to mind was vampires, assuming that was true. Considering his son is spreading it around school, a certain investigator might want to learn to keep his mouth shut about work at home. Still, vampires. I mean, it made sense. If there was a supernatural society, and if it was as dangerous as everyone seemed to think, then of course there'd be stuff like this that happened. Even if there were laws against it. But how much did the agency interns have to do with the case? Velos had been talking to Elliot about it. Because he was an intern? Or because he was a vampire? That worried me. I didn't want Allie doing something dangerous, especially if it was to do with people in the supernatural community murdering others. Jeez. I sneaked another look at Kara's table and realized that beyond them, at another table, was a familiar face. And he also seemed to be listening in. Grant Mitchell. No, really? Okay. Mark Lowe. Another vampire. Also a vampire, I realized. In fact, Elliot had said there were more vampires than any other cryptic group in the school, and a large community in Pine Hollow itself. Did that mean this town lent itself to more issues with them than other places? I wonder exactly how many vampires live in this city. Man, there is so much I don't know about this stuff.
Murders in the woods, huh? That's some scary stuff.
I'll say. I tapped my fingers on my book thoughtfully as I continued to listen. Yeah, you know they say that the bog is filled with the bodies of all the people who've gone missing over the years.
They also say that the weird lights you see out there sometimes are ghosts. That's all just urban legend. Besides, if it was true, they'd be out there trying to look for them. They can't. The whole area is protected by some environmental group. They're not going to let people come in and tear it up to look for decades-old bodies. So in other words, no one knows what's really out there, and no one ever will.
I bet we know one person who might know something. My head snapped up and I realized they were all three staring at me. Damn it, Kara! Was she trying to drag me into this somehow? What the hell? Everyone was already so stupidly convinced I'd witnessed a murder in the woods and blocked it out or something. I did not need her stirring up even more crap about that. I noticed a few other people looking over and realized that most of the room had been listening to that conversation. Ugh, this is so stupid. I didn't know if I should respond or not. I don't want to give it any serious... I don't want to lend any seriousness to it. Get anybody sus about it. So... Mark's listening in too. I say... Because I'm this is just going to spark an argument. And Nora might say something. Just give it some seriousness. Leaving without saying anything might work, but also it'll just kind of fuel the rumor mill, I'm thinking. But if I just Nora's been saying this since the beginning, could be aliens, right? I feel this is a very Nora answer, so I'm gonna go with that. I met their eyes without flinching. Did they really think they were going to get a rise of me that way? Like I hadn't already become a pro at dealing with rumors and idiotic gossip? I leaned forward and smiled slightly. Look, I'm not saying it's aliens, but... Most of the room tittered quietly, knowing what was coming next.
Oh, good grief.
He rolled his eyes, disgusted. Kara just glared at me. Nora 1, Kara 0. James at least snickered softly. What? Idiots. Luke and Kara's reactions told me all I needed to know. If I put any weight in their stupid questions and gossip, it would definitely just stir more things up. Yep. My joke pretty much diverted everyone's attention and broke the tense silence. But I couldn't help but be annoyed that I was still a source of gossip at all, especially in relation to something like this. The story was old, and there was nothing that should interest others. It was such an irritation that some people continued to bring it up, and I definitely didn't appreciate people connecting me in any way to murders. That would have been very disconcerting if I didn't know Kara already had it in for me. I got my things together and decided to make an exit while I could do it quietly. I passed by Mark's table on my way out, and our eyes met again. I lowered mine quickly and hurried past him. I felt a little guilty for even considering the possibility he or people like him might be somehow involved, but it was hard not to think about it. I wondered if the rest of the cryptics in town were already turning their eyes to the vampire community as well, and it would make sense. It would make me feel better if I wasn't the only one who immediately jumped to that conclusion and started suspecting people I knew. I did my very best to walk calmly out of the cafeteria as if I didn't want to strangle everyone who looked my way. I felt I did a remarkable job. I stopped just outside the door, sighing softly.
You're not planning on skipping class, are you? That would be unfortunate.
I froze. Damn it. Why is he everywhere lately?
Because he's the antagonist of this route.
I turned to the man standing a few feet away, leaning against the lockers. I wasn't planning on skipping. I just didn't want to stay in there.
You okay? I came in at the tail end of that conversation. I appreciate how you used humor to diffuse it, but...
I'm fine. I know you're somehow convinced yourself I'm traumatized and desperate for help, but... seriously, I'm fine. Gossip is an annoyance, not a weapon. Grant smiled thinly.
Then why are you leaving?
Because I don't like dealing with annoying things.
Including me in that?
Your words, not mine.
I'll make a deal with you. You come to my office and talk to me for a while, and I won't make you go back to study hall.
Why are you so determined to talk to me?
It's my job.
I don't want to go to your office.
Fine. We can find another place to talk.
I didn't want to talk to him, but I didn't want to go back and deal with the gossip either. He wins this round. Fine. There weren't too many places we could be sure we wouldn't be interrupted for the better part of an hour. So somehow Grant and I ended up sitting on the bottom of the stairs to chat. Barf. I wasn't happy about it. I sat as far from him as I comfortably could.
Look, I get that you don't trust me, but I want you to know that I read your records so I could be prepared for something like this happening. I know it's been 5 years, but there are plenty of kids here you went to middle school with. And something like what happened back then isn't something they'd forget easily.
Clearly.
And as much as you hate to admit it, you're not over it.
I gave him a sharp look.
Come on. You come back to a town where something mysterious happened to you, and the first thing you do is join a club about paranormal mysteries?
There is no connection to that. I joined the club because my best friend is in it. Listen, you're right. Part of me still wonders what happened back then. But the best part of me would rather people just let it go. Some mysteries... I bit my lip, looking away. Damn. This was hard. Some mysteries go unsolved. And that's fine. I just want people to stop trying to drag me into what's happening right now. It has nothing to do with me.
And why do you think people say it does?
Because people are stupid. Because they like gossip. It's not like someone is sitting in front of me presenting me with evidence that somehow the current missing people are related to the incident 5 years ago. People would be better off joining search teams.
To be fair, the authorities aren't letting anyone into the search area.
Really? I wondered if that was to do with the agency.
Well, obviously they aren't sure what's going on, so they want to avoid more victims.
Fair enough. But that doesn't change that people need to stop dragging me into this. I don't even remember what happened 5 years ago. Not that anyone believes that.
I believe you.
Yeah. Well, it's your job to say that.
Actually, you and I aren't all that different.
I didn't even make an attempt to hide that I rolled my eyes at that. Grant just laughed.
No effort to hide the disdain, huh?
Nope.
I'm not lying, though. And I'm not feeding you some line to get you to open up.
He leaned his elbows on his knees.
The truth is, I also went through a bit of a situation that I later had no memory of.
What?
It's not a lie. I've been through it all. The disbelief, the rumors.
Why are you telling me this?
I guess I want you to know that I can understand your search for answers.
I stood up abruptly, heart thudding uncomfortably. Elliot said he was normal, so how did he know about that? He shouldn't know what I was doing in the club. Who said I'm looking for answers? I never said anything like that.
I said it before, didn't I? Isn't that why you joined that club?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, it looks like the bell is about to ring. Be careful out there.
Ominous Grant is ominous. He left me standing on the stairs staring after him. What the heck? What was that? Did that mean he knew about the club? Or was he just... I don't know, trying to provoke me? Was he suspicious? I didn't know what any of this meant, but I didn't like it.